Okay. Okay.
Oh, and this is the YouTube.
Yeah, they were just saying like it just.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Summer Intensive Demonstration 2025. My name is Oliver Till, and I'm School Director here at Kansas City Ballet. The students have been working intensely over the last 5 weeks with a multitude of disciplines, and the demonstration today is a sample of what they've been doing. So the subjects that you'll see performed, all dancers have actually touched these subjects, but you're seeing a sample of them performing. As you know, we are live streaming today, so I hope that means for most of you, you can sit back and relax. You don't feel the pressure of having to come home with a video to show everyone. We are going to share that link, so anyone who does miss it, you'll be able to share that with them. So, just to know. I am going to speak to you all again at the end, but before we start, I'm going to hand over to Sean, who is going to talk a little bit about what you're about to see, and enjoy the show. Thank you for being here.
My name is Sean Hughes, and I'm going to talk to you about the level Bs we are about to see perform. I also want to mention to the level E, F, and gentlemen's families, I also had the opportunity to work with all of them, and they're amazing themselves. But I'm here to talk about the level Ds. And boy, what can I say about the level Ds? This is the 39th time I've taught Summer Intensive at Kansas City Ballet, and I can honestly say that this is one of the most special groups of people I've gotten to work with. They've been really good, not just pushing themselves, but pushing each other in a positive way. Repertoire class obviously prepares dancers to perform on stage, which is what you're going to see here in a minute. But at the same time, there's other things that you can do in dance that's not a dancing career. You can be a ballet mistress, you can be a rehearsal assistant, you can be a choreographer, you can be a teacher, you can be an artistic director. And so for me, repertoire class is more than just preparing students to be dancers. So during the process we went through, various times I would teach piece choreography, one person would learn it, they had to teach it to their entire group. Sometimes someone would have to step out and they would have to take notes on the group. Sometimes we would choreograph 4 different versions of an ending pose. They had to learn all 4 of them and then decide as a group which pose they like best. So a lot of the jobs where you speak, you have to communicate with others, not focusing on yourself, but having to give constructive feedback to other dancers. We worked on that, and they did an amazing job. No matter what curveball I threw at them, they always responded really well. So today you're going to see a couple sections from Kita, the ballet, and hopefully you enjoy it. Thank you.
Bogdanov or just Dima. So in the past 5 weeks, I had a privilege to work with the young men that came here to Kansas City for the summer intensive. Let me tell you that they are very dedicated and hard-working group with a lot of energy. They kept me up on my toes. But I'm gonna tell you that they're probably gonna be really happy after today not hearing me scream from the front of the room, higher, higher, more, more. And I look to the wings and I see Axel over there smiling. But I'm gonna tell you that I am genuinely gonna miss it, and I'm gonna miss them all. So on that note, for the past 5 weeks, they've learned a lot of variations, but for the show, we wanted to come up with something a little bit different than just doing many different variations. So in the past week, we come up with some duets and quartets, right? We all work together, me and the guys, trying to figure out where we can change places, the choreography, so it works, and it's all a cohesive work, so you can all enjoy. So the first piece what you're gonna see, gonna be performed by Taylor and Jonathan. So the music is from Ballet by there from first act, and it's a Flamekeeper's Dance. So the choreography, we came up with this choreography, we made it so it's a world premiere right now. So please enjoy and welcome Jonathan and Taylor. The next piece you're gonna see is a quartet from a full-length ballet, Flames of Paris. And we have Landon, Axel, Tate, and Mac performing for you. Please enjoy.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tempe Ostergren. I had the pleasure of working with the Level E group. We did create a piece together, a new choreography. And I say we because they really had a lot of help and input in working on what moves are best for them and what they wanted to challenge them. I think this was just such a great experience because it represented what a day in the life of a company member might be 4 hours of classes in the morning, rehearsals, and then I came to them about 2 in the afternoon when they were dead tired, and I said, all right guys, what are we gonna do now? Help me out. And it really forced them to focus and like discipline themselves, to use their energy and apply themselves, even though they retired. And that's what happens when you're in a company. So we did Pulcinella, Stravinsky. It's a suite from Pulcinella, and there are 3 parts to it.
Next piece, you're gonna see another male variation from Ballet Coppelia. So it's a variation of France, and you don't really see this version a lot. It's mostly done in the eastern part of Europe. So this solo we did it as a duet, and next is going to perform it Joseph and Constantine. Enjoy. It's me again. So the next piece is actually one of my favorites. So this piece is from Ballet called Fountain of Bakhchisarai, which was done in the early 20th century to a poem by famous Russian writer Alexander Pushkin. So the story is a two-act ballet. The story is about Crimean Tatars, and it's a love triangle. I mean, it's a crazy story. There's a lot of fighting and stuff. But this dance happens in the second act, and it's a celebration at the end of the ballet. And it's a big male group piece, male ensemble piece. And there's one soloist. The character's name is Nur Ali, and that's what we tried to show you today. Of course, we're gonna break it into 4 people. So we get to, and with me and the help of the guys, we figured out how to piece the piece together so it works, and they all play a big part of it too. So please enjoy, and please welcome Gio, Johnny, Liv, and Charlie.
everyone. I'm so happy to be here today. My name is Paula Weber. I had the opportunity to teach the level 4 ladies their rep class, and they are just outstanding. So no one put up with my craziness. But they can do it, and that's what's so rewarding, to challenge them maybe beyond what they thought they could do, and they have succeeded beautifully. The piece I choreographed a little while ago is called Off Center. The music is by Kenji Bunch, and his tune is Swing Swift. And have fun, ladies.
Good afternoon. My name is Winston Dynamite Brown. And thank you. That is my legal birth name. We'll talk about that later. I had the pleasure of working with Level D in jazz, and during our preparation for this demo, I wanted to focus on a few things. First being the marriage between modern and ballet, so they wouldn't have to feel like they had to start from complete scratch. Also focus on the musicality and the importance of the musicality. And also what I love most about jazz is the emphasis on the individuality, giving them permission to really kind of dive into and show who they are. And what better way to do that than house music, and that's what you're gonna have to listen to for the next few minutes. And I had a good time. I hope they had a good time, sometimes more than not, but I hope you enjoy it. And here's Level D doing jazz.
I wanted to offer them an opportunity to experience the choreographic process we did. You were fun, we had fun, right? We worked on our artistry and we were focused and they were just young professionals. So it was really beautiful. Can't wait to share.
My name is Suzanne Ryan Stratty. Welcome. I'm so glad that you're all here. I'd like to introduce the musician for the next demo. This is Miss Nina Cherry. I had the opportunity to work with all of the dancers, either in a dance composition class or modern dance. The next demo that you'll see is the last one that we have today, but I just thought I'd share a couple of elements you can look for. This would be for the level F. They were learning a release technique in modern, which would be based on the Humphrey Ramone technique. If you don't know what that is, here's a couple things you can look for. One is to investigate their own maximum range. So instead of going a certain degree with a lean, I encourage them to discover how far over they can lean. And that's a kind of a simplistic way of looking at it, but it applied to everything. So all of the movement, how far can you reach versus putting your arm out? So it's very individually encouraging. And the other thing is realizing what the high point of the movement is. So if I'm leaning here, this is the highest point, but if I'm leaning here, this is the highest point of my body, and that transitions into all of the movement. Anyway, so I'm going to invite the S out, and thank you so much for joining us this
dancers, thank you so much for your hard work and dedication, not just for today, but over the last 5 weeks. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you. I was saying that before the rehearsal week today. Really, thank you so much. Thank you for sending us such well-rounded people. Really, it's been wonderful to work with them. They should be very, very proud of themselves, and you should take some of the credit. Yes. This summer intensive happens because of a team, and I would like to take a moment to show and share my appreciation to our KCB staff, accompanists and faculty who work tirelessly to create an environment both inside and outside the studio that is wonderful and a place to work, and we work hard and push the limits and find where our boundaries are. So thank you to all of them. I'd also like to mention our RA team and Kayla, the Dawn director, come out. There's only Thank you so much. And last but not least, the reason why you have all the information you have when you need it, and why we operate as smooth as we do through these 5-week periods, is because of rituals. Thank you so much. This year, I have the honour of introducing something new to our summer intensive, and that is our Ambassador Scholarship. This scholarship is created to recognise dedication, integrity, leadership, and the spirit of generosity and kindness that we like to instill here, inside and outside the studio at KCB. This scholarship, will gift a full tuition scholarship for the summer intensive for 2026. It is my pleasure to announce that our Ambassador Scholar for 2026 is Avin. Concludes our demonstration. So thank you all for coming. It really means a lot to those dancers who are out there, to see your faces out there. I know it always did to me. So thank you very much for coming. They are going to escape now, head upstairs, get their things, and they will be meeting you